My winner, and we're continuing off of the Yikes Dog Milk. I think that my first place just has to go to RLL in total. Big rebound weekend for them. Good to see them get the checkered, celebrating. And not only was it just for Christain Lundgaard getting the win, but Graham Rahal was the biggest mover in the race. So overall, unfortunately for our pal Jack Harvey, things worked out the way they did for him this weekend. But, you got Graham being the biggest mover. You got Lundgaard putting it on pole and then winning on Sunday. Everybody has kind of been a real easy punchline this year. RLL has been, and they shut everybody up this weekend. So I got to cap off. Round of applause. First place finish for RLL in total there.
Well, yeah, Joey, I mean, you said it right. I think, and this was something that I kind of, when we mentioned it earlier, I wanted to expand on it a little bit because I think the RLL team does deserve a lot of credit. I've obviously had my comings togethers with Graham this year, but played a lot of golf with Christian. Jack Harvey, great friend. We bought a lot of trading cards together. Friends of the show. All three drivers are friends of the show. Yep. But I think when you're in a difficult sport like we're in, this is one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive, motor racing in the world. And you have weekends like RLL's had where they're literally the last three cars on the grid. They're qualifying at the back. They're barely making the Indy 500. One car didn't make the Indy 500. And they have a $100 million race shop, huge shop, David Letterman, Mike Lanigan, like really high level, powerful folks, Bobby Rahal. And a lot of the engineers there, like I know I've worked with Alan McDonald there. I've worked with Christain Lundgaard's engineer, called my race when we led the most laps at the 500, Ben. Smart people are there. And when everything does click and they do find it, that's got to be a very satisfying feeling for those guys. But I think it takes a lot of work. You have to work at it. If you're, and you know what? They chose to not continue to suck. You know what I mean? And when a team does that, the drivers have the opportunity to redeem themselves, or not redeem themselves, but just to get that satisfaction. Because if they just settled for being the worst and like one of the worst groups, like for the rest of the season, well, I mean, shoot, Christian's not going to want to stay there. Jack's going to want to try to go somewhere else. Like the drivers are less motivated. But when you see, like for me as a driver, right? If we started in a really difficult position, but you saw the work, wow, hey, like those changes that we made or whatever new that we brought to the track in the damper department or whatever it is, the different philosophy, when you feel that as a driver and you can see it with results, my gosh, does that fuel the soul? It just makes you more excited because it's like, hey, now I can do my job even better. And then you can get the win for your group. So again, some teams obviously don't, some teams struggle doing this more than others. But you got to give Rahal a lot of credit. And that whole engineering group, their leadership, all the people there. I mean, they've got, a massive organization. And, they are now, like, I believe I saw a stat, like, they're the only team other than like Ganassi and Penske and Andretti to win a race. Like McLaren hasn't won a race this year. You know what I mean? So kind of wild to see that. So good for them. I think that deserved a good explanation for how this sport works, and how, obviously they might still have a difficult weekend in Iowa. Like they might be like, hey, all right, we sorted out our street course package. We got that going. Exactly. But you know what? Next step is Iowa, because all you can do is one thing at a time. If you try to attack everything, you're not going to be able to solve everything. But if you attack one thing at a time, we do the same thing as drivers, right? If you look at the data after every session, your teammate, he's better than you in turn 3 and 6 and 9. Well, guess what? I'm not going to try to get all those at the same time. I'm going to do boom. I'm going to do 3 and I'm going to do 6 first. But I mean, obviously, in your mind, hey, I got to fix all 3 of these corners. But if you focus on doing 2 of those the best, and maybe the turn 9 is still a little bit off, you're gonna do better than getting a little bit at each one. You know what I mean? So I think you got to attack things one thing at a time, especially if you're coming into things to a new situation like I would be this weekend. We're going to attack one thing at a time. We're going to get it done, and then we can be efficient with it. So, they've clearly done that as a team. They're getting their street course package on point. And I got to give them a lot of credit for doing that.